So, we're here to talk about the greatest story ever told. And I appreciate that at a conference about diversity, at a conference about inclusion, that saying that our story is the greatest is perhaps a little arrogant. There's some hubris to that. But I don't want you to worry. The reason we picked this title was because it's based upon a 1965 film of the same name. And this film brought together a diverse group of people to tell the greatest story ever told. First, we had as Jesus, an atheist, Max von Sydow. As Martha, we had a Jewish actress, Ina Balin. And finally, as Pontius Pilate, we had the great Telly Savalas, a Greek Orthodox, who, by the way, shaved his head for the very first time for this role. Now, please understand that I put these actors in here for the masters that were here yesterday, so they know who these actors are. And if you don't, you can Google them. But what was it? What was it that brought together this diverse group of people to create the greatest story ever told? What was their motivation? Why did they come together? They came together to make money. And if you want to go to your Apple phone, you can go to the Apple store and you can purchase the greatest story ever told. Or you can watch it for free on Amazon Prime. So Jeff Bezos is still making money from this film. Now, there is no doubt that there are faith-based attractions all over the world that are making money and losing money. You can find these experiences in Branson, Missouri. You can find them in Pigeon Forge. You can find them in Abu Dhabi. You can find them almost anywhere in the world. In fact, I'm sure that many of you have been here to the Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi. Interesting fact, and I know Yael Kaufman, who's coming out a little later to talk about numbers. She's going to explore these in a little more detail. But this attraction is the #1 tourist attraction in the UAE. It draws more tourists than Ferrari World, Warner Brothers World, and the Louvre combined. But it's not just about mosques. We have Jonathan Alger, an architect, who will be coming out in a minute as well. And he's worked on St. Patrick's Cathedral and has worked on the Museum of the Bible. And we're excited to hear his insights. And finally, we have Andrew Bagley, who runs an advertising agency in Utah, whose largest client operates the #1 tourist attraction in Utah. And it's not Park City. So, please welcome to the stage our presenters for you today. We have Yael Kaufman, founding principal and partner at LDP. We have Jonathan Alger, an architect and designer from C&G Partners. And we have Andrew Bagley, president of Bondcom. Now, we have a confession to make. We are all just a bit nervous to share this story with you today. We're a bit nervous to talk about faith because we know that talking about faith can make some people uncomfortable. And in fact, we approach this subject with a little fear and trepidation. And it's based on personal experience. Several years ago, actually more than several years ago, I was asked to help the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center in their effort to increase their attendance. This is a marquee attraction on the riverfront in Cincinnati, $110 million to build. It is an amazing experience. But as you can see from the local African-American newspaper, the Cincinnati Herald, planners said in 1997 that the Freedom Center would attract 1 million visitors a year. But in 2002, estimates were scaled back to 260,000 a year. In 2005, the center's first year of the center of operation was 205, and the attendance has been steadily declining ever since. The challenge they were having, and the brief they gave us, was how do you convince a suburban soccer mom who lives in Mason, Ohio, or other suburbs surrounding the city, to drive downtown instead of driving to Kings Island and go to a museum about slavery? The market research and focus groups that they did found that most people were saying this: I don't want to pay to feel guilty. So as we showed up for our first meeting, it was before the museum was open, and there was an elderly African-American security guard who was working the desk there. And I noticed that he was reading the Bible. And for a moment, I thought, well, maybe the one thing that this suburban soccer mom has in common with this African-American gentleman from downtown Cincinnati is that they both share the same faith. And this spark of an idea was confirmed as we started walking through the Freedom Center. The escaping slaves from the South referred to the Ohio River as the River Jordan, a nod to the symbol of freedom for Jews. A large graphic as you enter the museum from Sojourner Truth, a great abolitionist who escaped slavery herself, said this: I have borne 5 children and seen most all sold off to slavery, and when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. Later, you see examples of both the hypocrisy of using faith to justify slavery, with pictures of lynchings in front of churches, as well as a beautiful immersive theater that tells the story of an abolitionist preacher who helped shuttle slaves across the Ohio River. My favorite experience in the entire Freedom Center is a gallery of slave ship names carved onto stone. What a powerful place to have a discussion with your children if you're a parent about hypocrisy. The Grace of God was one of those ships' names. So working with the public relations director at the Freedom Center, we came up with this idea of faith to freedom. We were very excited about it. We're like, you know what, let's really tell the story of how faith inspired so many abolitionists. Let's tell the story of how faith was used by others to justify slavery and use it to inspire people. And at the time, we were going to try to steal some of the thunder of the Creation Museum, who had just opened across the river and were drawing more than twice the numbers of the Freedom Center. How can we use some of their faith-based marketing efforts and steal their thunder and get these mothers to bring their families and bring their children to the Freedom Center? So we developed exhibit guides. We developed sermons to send out. We developed a whole marketing campaign. We called it Faith to Freedom. We were very excited about it. We went into the CMO and we pitched the idea. And the CMO got very, very angry. He thumped his hand onto the table and he said, "We are not a church and we never will be." And of course, we backed off and we said, no, you misunderstand. This is a business decision. We're not trying to convert anybody. We're not trying to make a statement about belief. We're simply trying to get more people to attend your museum by appealing to a faith-based audience. And he said, no. And again, we reasoned. We said, well, listen, CNN has a faith reporter, and it's not because they believe or because they're trying to share the message. It's because they're a business and they want to reach this audience. But we were unsuccessful. Our plans were ditched, and they went in another direction. Now, I'll be honest, I have no idea if our plan would have worked. It was never tried. But I do know that what they're doing now is not working. Attendance, some years they get more than others, but just across the river, less than 40 minutes away, you have the Ark Encounter getting close to 1 million people a year. The Creation Museum had to expand their parking lot to get more people into their experience. And to this day, the Freedom Center does not attract this audience in significant numbers. So, It is true that everyone here with us today has personal biases when it comes to faith. We all do, for good or bad. And like the Reverend John Rankin, who was profiled in that theater, we ask you to please give a candid ear to what we have to share with you today. I promise you that none of us are trying to convert you to anything but keeping an open mind. And in fact, perhaps, we even share a few common beliefs. As I look around here and I see the nice gobo up on the wall, I do think that we share some common beliefs. Is there anyone here that believes in storytelling? Yeah? Do you believe in storytelling? Is there anyone here who believes in architects? Wait, who believes in architecture? Yes. Yes. All right. Electrosonic, let's hear it. Do you believe in technology? Yes. And if you combine these things, do you believe in experiences? Yes. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to somebody who believes in numbers. Yes! Let's hear it for Yale Koifman. Now, I've worked with Yale, and anyone who's worked with Yale knows that her bluntness is a whetstone of refinement.
So nicely said.
And with that, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a very nice way of saying that sometimes I may be a little bit rude with reality when you're talking to clients.